Have you ever stumbled across a book that you thought would be interesting to you and suddenly you were inspired to try something new? Well, that's what I want to tell you about as we take a look at the money saving garden year. So stay with me. Well, hi everyone. This is Crystal from A Crystal Clear Life, where we focus on planning, organizing, and living a more simplified life. And I want to say welcome to everybody. If you don't know who I am, my name is Crystal, and I'm a retired teacher. And now I spend my days gardening and quilting and teaching others about using OneNote, caring for my cats, traveling, and just relaxing and enjoying life as much as I can. And recently I stumbled across this book that I would like to share with you today and tell you how it inspired me to try something new in my garden and in OneNote. If that sounds interesting to you, please go ahead and give me a thumbs up. A like really is the best compliment that you can leave me. Leave me a comment if you are inspired by this as well. Subscribe if you have not done so already. And let's go ahead and get into this video today. I want to show you this book on my screen because it's a little bit easier than me trying to hold it up and you to see it. But you see here, the book is titled The Money Saving Garden Year, and it's a month-by-month guide to a great garden that costs less. Okay, and it is written by Anya Lautenbach. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. And it is just a beautiful book. I was drawn to the color and the covers and, the photograph of the lavender and that kind of thing. I thought it was really pretty. And as I started to get into it, I'm all about saving money and trying to be as thrifty as possible. My family's always telling me, just throw that away. And I keep saying, no, I can find a purpose for it. The Money Saving Gardening Year sounded like something that I would be interested in, okay? It was published last year in 2004. This is the back cover. You see there's some beautiful photography in there. And here's the table of contents. I like it because, it's set up by months. And as a planner, months are, important to me. I like that very much. So we have a short introduction, and then we have a few pages for each month of the year. And then there is a plant propagation guide, which I love to propagate plants. So I thought that was interesting. And then there are some resources and an index and acknowledgments. And the entire book, as you will see as we go through these couple sample pages here that they have online for us, the entire book is just beautiful. Okay, so as I'm reading the book, this is something that I originally checked out from the library, but it is now on my wish list. If somebody out there, wants to buy me a copy for, Mother's Day or my birthday or something like that, I wouldn't turn this down because this is a beautiful book. But what they talk about, or the way she breaks her book down, is for each month she talks about what's in season. And she has some reflections up here about what she likes about the season. And then she kind of breaks it down into categories. Very consistent, which I love. And those categories are what's in bloom. And she talks then about what plants are in bloom in her garden. And then she has a mindful moment where she again reflects a little bit on that time period. And then she's always including a section on spotting wildlife, which I think is cool because that's one of the reasons that I garden, is to attract wildlife to my gardens. And so I think that's really cool. And then you see on the facing page, she has 4 beautiful pictures here about the things that are in bloom, and what she's doing working in the garden. Okay. Let's look at another page. This happens to be the beginning of chapter 4 for April, and she has a brief description here again about, what's going on in her life and in her garden in the month of April, and a beautiful picture. I just think it's gorgeous. Jumping into July, she's got a what to grow section. So what to grow in July. And again, she has 4 lovely pictures here. And she talks about what you might want to be sowing or planting seeds inside, what you might want to be sowing or planting outside, what's a good thing to propagate now, what's a good thing to plant now, and then she has maintenance musts, things that you must do in your garden to keep things maintained properly. Again, I love all the little categories. It's a really great way to organize your gardening thoughts. Then she has some focus plants that she talks about throughout the book, and this focus plant happens to be lavender. Still the same window pane of 4 beautiful pictures. I like that. And then she talks about how to grow lavender, when it's blooming, what to do for aftercare, how to get plants for free by propagating, and then a list of what her favorite varieties are. Okay. This next page is talking about what to do if you want to create a cutting garden. And she talks about things that you might want to think about, like, are there certain colors or planting styles that you might want to think about? Spacing out your plants, staking and weeding your plants, because some cut flowers get really, really tall and they need support, okay? And then recommended plants to start putting in a cutting garden if that's what you want to do. All in all, I think it is a beautiful book. It's filled with great ideas. I have not read the entire book yet. I have flipped through the whole thing, and I'm reading the specific chapters as those months are coming to me, okay? So I thought this was really great. I love the information, but more than that, it inspired me to do something. In OneNote, of course. So let's jump over to OneNote, and I will show you what I did in OneNote. So as I was going through and reading this book, it was inspired by the Money Saving Garden Year book. And I thought about, okay, well, what do I like about what she's talking about? And I wrote, I just started taking some notes. So I wrote month. How are you feeling about the month? What are you looking forward to? Garden plans, light changes, weather forecasts, seed catalogs, design ideas, etc. These were all things that I could see that she was talking about in this book. Mindful moments, personal observations, and intention, okay? So I thought, yeah, I really like that. And then she got into, what's in season for each of the months. So she talked about what's in bloom. She talked about spotting wildlife, and she talked about maintenance musts. So I thought, well, that kind of sounds like, some categories that I might like to start tracking as well. And then she has what to grow. We saw those pages, and what to sow indoors, plant outdoors, and I wrote down plant outside again. This is supposed to be sow outdoors, meaning, putting seeds in the ground as opposed to plants. And then plant outside would be the actual plants that you're putting. Maybe they are seeds that you started indoors that you're now going to transfer outside, or there are new plants that you propagated or bought, okay, to add to your garden. Then I liked the thrifty things that she talked about too, those money-saving ideas. The one money-saving tip that I really, really like is winter sowing. That's where you take the opaque milk jugs, clean them out good, or water jugs, clean them out good. You put a little bit of soil in there and you plant seeds in there like echinacea or coneflower or something like that. And then you tape the lids back on, and that little hole at the top lets enough moisture in for those seeds to sit and do what they need to do over winter. And then when the springtime comes and the sun warms up the inside, they start to propagate and grow. It's a really, really great way to do some seedling starting, especially if you're like me and you don't have the fancy lights and the mats and all that stuff to be doing a lot of seed starting. So I wanted to include a spot here for money saving ideas that I learned from the book or that I learned about from other places. Also some money saving propagation tips, which are different. Propagation means to start new plants or to grow new plants from existing plants that you already have, and a propagate now section. So I was just writing down ideas that I liked from the book, okay? I thought about to myself, well, what about harvesting? I don't see anything in there about harvesting, when you're going out and collecting the beans that you've grown or the tomatoes and that kind of thing. And I really think that maybe I just haven't gotten that far in the book yet, and she probably talks about harvesting somewhere. But we'll see later on when I get to that part of the book. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to go back and try it for May. So from my notes page here that I took, I went down and I tried something like this for May, because a lot of my friends like to garden, and they talk to me about the way that I record things in my garden journal, and they're like, Crystal, I don't have time for all that. I'm not drawing design plans and writing down the light requirements from my plants, and I don't do all of that. I just want a quick and easier way to keep track of things that are happening in my garden. So I was thinking this might be a quick and easy way, a monthly snapshot to focus on what's happening in your garden. Okay? All right, so this is what I came up with for the month of May. So in May, I left that little reminder for me up there. How are you feeling about this month? What are you looking forward to? Garden plans, light changes, weather forecasts, seed catalogs, design ideas, etc. Mindful moments, personal observations, and intention. What do you intend to do in your garden for this month? And then I sat down and wrote that for myself. So let me zoom in here so you can see this a little bit better. I just wanted to reflect the fact that I love May very much. So I wrote, May is one of my favorite months in the garden. All of the flowering shrubs and the roses are blooming. The air feels cool and refreshing. The sun feels warm and so inviting. I love sitting outside in the sun with the sun on my face for a few moments every day. It's almost a meditative time for me. I would be remiss if I left out the critters. All of the birds are building their nests, and the skinks have come out and they've started scampering around on the deck. I love the little blue-tail skinks that we have. The chipmunks appear and start to replenish their seed stores. The solitary bees have started using the bee house again to lay their eggs. And now that the weather is warmer, I can put out my vegetables. Tomatoes and cucumbers are, spelling mistake, the stars of the show, okay? And trying to look at that, those 4 window pane pictures that she put up there. Of course, I have more pictures, but I added the rose that's in bloom, the rhododendrons that are in bloom, the clematis that is in bloom, along the front walkway here, how beautiful everything is. And then I also wanted to include a picture of my new layout for my vegetable garden. So you can see here on the side, I have some tomatoes, and then around my little umbrella stand in the middle. This is an old umbrella that's seen better days. The umbrella cover has been long gone, and I just cut the pole off and stuck it down in an umbrella stand and fanned it out a little bit, and I have netting over that, and I'm going to let the cucumbers grow up and go vertical this year. So I'm hoping that that works. We will see. I'll keep you posted if you are interested. So I wanted to include some pictures there of things that had happened in May, okay? Then on the other side of my page, I wanted to do the in-season idea that I got from Anya. And what I did here, again, let me zoom in so you can see. This is just kind of a quick, snapshot overview of the season for the month of May. What's in bloom, and I added harvesting. So rhododendrons, purple and white, knockout, red in the front garden, lavender, the red, and the peach ones in the bird garden, the drift red roses in the circle gardens. Now, I could write down the names and the varieties of these roses if I wanted to, like they were done in the book, but I know that I have stored in other places in my garden journal the names and varieties of these particular plants. So I know that I can look those up if I want to. And maybe, who knows, there may be a time when I go back and add those things, okay? I wanted to add in here harvesting, so I have this as a table so that I can just keep adding to it. Harvesting in May was lettuce and spinach from the greenhouse, and snap peas from the garden. So you can see that as I add more things, the rows beneath just go down so I can keep things together. I like that a lot. That's why I use tables a lot in OneNote, okay? Then I have a section here called Spotting Wildlife. We have wild turkeys that come from the woods and they like to parade through the backyard. I think that's great. The more bugs they eat, the happier I am. We have deer in the field. We're trying to keep them away from the garden that we've planted and the orchard because they do love to get in there and eat the apples before we get any of them. So I don't mind the deer, but I want them to stay in the woods and in the big fields, not right up against the house. I have started to see some zebra swallowtail butterfly, which I think are beautiful. Those are the white and black ones. And the male ruby-throated hummingbird was the first one to the feeder this year, and he has hung around, so that's really great. Maintenance musts, I have down here some fertilizing to be done and how to fertilize the tomatoes and the new vegetable plants that are being planted. And I also made a note here that I'm trying the string method for my tomatoes this year. I've never done the string method before. It's new to me, but I'm going to give it a try. And again, I'll keep you posted if you're interested to see how that works. All right. So those are some of the ideas that we had. And then there was another section where she had about sewing indoors. And in my case, it wouldn't be in the house, it would be in the greenhouse because I don't have light trays or anything like that. So I am still continuing through the month of May to sow spinach so that it can continue to come up. And I am taking cuttings of the Viburnum Korea spice bush that we planted on the side of the house because we would like to have a couple more of those in the back. And I love to try to propagate things. So, I did that in the month of May as well. And then for sowing things outside, I put some marigold seeds underneath the tomatoes and I planted the bush beans that we're going to grow this year. And planting outside, that means plants for me. I planted the tender vegetables like the tomatoes and the cucumbers, and I planted the annuals in the deck pots and the little pots by the little blow-up pool that we have out there, okay? So that was what I was doing in the month of May. Then thrifty things. One of the things that, again, my family's always saying, Mom, just throw that away. No, I wanted to use the heavy salad containers and other plastic containers that you get, you know, if you buy a cake or something and it's got that nice domed container on top. That turned upside down makes a great water container if you're growing in containers like I am doing. I have, you know, large 5-gallon buckets or, you know, 15-inch, 16-inch pots that I'm growing my tomatoes in. And to put those down in there gives the plant enough moisture for the day that they don't dry out. Because if you've ever grown in containers before, you know they can dry out quickly. Okay? All right, so now is the time for money-saving propagation tips. It's time to take soft root cuttings of shrubs if you want to try that. So again, on my list, just is that something I want to do, you know, for this time. And then those crepe myrtles that we took cuttings of in the winter, you know, when you go out and prune your crepe myrtles, we took cuttings from those prunings that were just going to be tossed away. And we have probably, I don't know, 48, 50 little crepe myrtles that are about this big. So it's time to repot those and put them in bigger pots so that they can have the summertime to grow on. And they probably will be a foot tall before the or more before the end of the summer. So that's pretty cool. Okay. And propagation now, what am I currently working on? I took some coleus cuttings because I overwintered some of my coleus. And what I started to do was the coleus that I really love that made it through the winter, as they started to grow, I took some cuttings from them, and those coleus cuttings are starting to root and grow on. I did the same thing for some ivy geraniums, okay? All right, so this is kind of the page that I came up with, being inspired by this beautiful book. I would, if you're a gardener, I would highly suggest that you check out this book, whether you make your own page in OneNote or whether you just decide in, a notebook that you carry around your garden and you want to keep track of things. These are some great categories and ways to think about your garden, not in such a granular way like I tend to do everything else, but very much in a big, bold, beautiful way. What's blooming? What animals do you see? What are you wanting to plant? And all of that kind of thing. And just put some of your own photographs in there to inspire you about the things that you've been able to accomplish in the garden. Well, I think that about does it for me today. I really hope that you enjoyed this. Maybe you got some inspiration from it. If you did, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. Hit that like button down below. Subscribe if you haven't already so that you don't miss further things. And if you were inspired by this and you're going to try this in your own gardening journal, please let me know down in the comments. And as always, if you have a question for me, you can leave it in the comments. If you have a video idea that you would like to see, you can leave that in the comments as well. And I love communicating with you guys, so keep that communication coming. Please share this video with anybody that you think would find it useful. And until next time, here's hoping that you can live a more simplified and organized life through better planning. I use OneNote and great inspiration from books from my library. Until next time, okay, bye.